Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 1949. Be prepared to be inspired.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, inspiring automotive enthusiasts, and welcome to Cars Yeah. Today I'm in San Francisco, where my son and daughter-in-law live. Beautiful city, with a very special guest by the name of Shauna McIntyre. Shauna, welcome to Cars Yeah. Do you have the gear, and are you ready to release the clutch?
Mark, I certainly am. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Cool. We're going to have some fun. Really happy to have you as well. Now, before I give you a proper introduction and we dive into your world, what's one little thing that maybe most people don't know about you, Shauna?
Oh boy, probably that my first speeding ticket, I was told that the police officer was being nice to me for writing me down for 99 miles an hour. Otherwise, he'd be hauling me off to jail for reckless driving.
You go, girl.
There you go.
Whoa. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I was enjoying my reaction was it was a Ford, one of those new Ford Tauruses back in it would have been 1990, I guess. Uh-huh. And the speedometer only went up to 85 miles an hour. So I told him, you can only write me up for 85, right? Because that's as fast as I know I'm going.
You know, yeah, those old cars only had, I remember for a while the government in all its infinite wisdom decided, maybe if we just make a speedo go up to 85, nobody will surpass that. Right. Yeah.
Right.
That
exactly.
Didn't quite work. So, wow.
Well, the good news is I was in the middle of California going down I-5.
Okay.
There was not a lot of traffic near me. So
yeah.
I was probably only endangering myself, but still I've grown a little wiser from since then. That was a long time ago.
We do as we mature a little bit. I got pulled over for a very similar infraction, although I will say I was going a little faster across the desert, returning from Tucson to San Diego right before you hit the California border. And there was about 6 of us, and we were all flying. And unfortunately, we came around a bend, and on the other side of the road was Arizona State Patrol. He pulled across that median and came after us. Now, I backed out, and everybody else ran, and he went flying by me, and in my smugness, I thought, I was with my sister, and I said, oh, thank goodness he's going to go get those guys. Well, about, 3 minutes later, all of them were pulled over, and he was standing in the middle of the highway, 2-lane freeway, pointing at me, waving me over. And I went, oh, darn. But to make a long story short, one of the people was being very uppity with that officer, so much so that he let all of us go and kept that guy, put him in his back seat in handcuffs. And there you go. So be polite, just like you were to officers.
I think so.
Sometimes they'll cut you a little slack, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
And admit what you've done. That usually helps too. In my past experience, but we won't talk about any more of those. Let me give you a proper introduction here. Shauna McIntyre is president of Ouster Automotive, where they are focused on driving mass market adoption of digital lidar in consumer and commercial vehicles. In October of 2021, Ouster acquired Sense Photonics, where Shauna was the CEO. In addition to her role as CEO, she also serves on the board of directors of Lithium Motors and Electric Last Mile Solutions. Shauna joined Sense Photonics in April of 2020, bringing a wealth of technology and automotive experience and a track record of driving innovation in traditional industries. Prior to Sense, Shauna led Google's automotive service program and served as chief of staff for Google Devices, the company's rapidly growing consumer electronics business. And then further back, her career included time with Ford Motor Company, McKinsey & Company, Honeywell International, and other powerhouses in the automotive sector. We'll be back in just a minute, but first a word from our valued sponsor. So give them a little love if you would. In fact, give them a little business. That's why we're here today. And we'll be right back. Keep your seatbelts on. Covercraft's newest 3-layer all-climate cover is especially engineered for moderate weather conditions, and it's treated with an extra UV-resistant formula. It's soft, it's breathable, and it's easy to store, all while pampering your paint, providing maximum UV, rain, and dust protection. If you live where it's windy, no worries. Simply add their gust guards for windy conditions to add extra protection to keep your cover in place. Your 3-layer all-climate cover is custom tailored with Covercraft's attention to detail, form and fit with the quality and attention to detail that's been their tradition since 1965. Covercraft protects cars, trucks, motorcycles, RVs, trailers, and watercraft too. Every one of my vehicles is protected with a Covercraft cover. And I have a deal for you. Use the code YEAH21, YEAH21 at covercraft.com, and you'll get 10% off your Covercraft order plus free shipping. That's right. So get 10% off with free shipping by simply using the code YEAH21 at checkout. Covercraft, protecting the things that move you. When it was time to renew my collector car policy, my carrier raised my rates by a lot. But why? My usage was the same, my car's value was the same, and I had never made a claim. I didn't even have a ticket. The only change was their rate, and they had no reason why. What's with that? I researched my options, I spoke to others, and with American Collectors Insurance is where I now have my policy. What a difference. A live person actually answers the phone. She spent time learning about me and my Porsche Turbo, the one I call my Orange Crush, and provided a reasonable quote. American Collectors Insurance now protects my special ride. I'm saving hundreds of dollars, and I can sleep at night knowing my baby is properly insured. Why wait until your next premium is due? Give them a call today for your personal agreed value quote. Call 866-AC1-YEAH. That's 866-224-9324. Tell them you're a friend of mine, Mark Green at Cars Yeah. American Collectors Insurance, classic car insurance designed by collectors for collectors, automotive enthusiasts just like you and me. That's American Collectors Insurance. So, Shauna, we're back. We're going the speed limit today. We might speed up a little bit, dive a little deeper into the corners. Okay. But I'd love for you, before you share what's going on at Ouster, because what you guys are doing with an adaptation of digital lidar is very interesting to me in the consumer and commercial vehicles, because you're changing the world of lidar as I knew it. But first, can you walk us through a little bit of this history of your involvement with automotive? Because you've been with some heavy hitters, you've been running companies, but you sound like you're a car girl at heart.
Mark, I am a car girl at heart. I'm a girl from California, though, so I'm one of those rare transplants that went east rather than the east, the Midwest and the other folks coming to California. Yep. So I was in grad school and engineering, and I had grown up. My father was a professor, and so I was always around academia, which nothing wrong with that. But I was really starting to get eager to see the real world and where the rubber meets the road, literally. So I got an opportunity to be an intern at a Ford plant, and it just happened it was overseas, and I had grown up speaking French equally to English, and so I just saw it as an opportunity to use my French in a setting that otherwise I would never be able to really use my French professionally. And I get the manufacturing experience as a summer intern that I can then use to be a better design engineer here in the Valley or do something. But I really didn't have a plan after that summer internship. Well, 3 months with Ford Motor Company turned into 3 years and more back in the U.S.
Oui.
And I really got bit by the bug. Exactly. No, but I think what really struck me was that, we were employing hundreds of people in this plant in this, small southwestern French town and outside of Bordeaux, beautiful. But it was an impact on people everywhere, right? It wasn't just that we were designing a product in one place and then shipping it off or manufacturing it somewhere else and having customers around the world. This was customers around the world, development around the world, manufacturing around the world, supply chains around the world. It was just such a complex global business that I just found it really interesting from the get-go. And it's, where art meets science, right? That vehicles are a thing of art beyond science and technology and engineering. And it's this the conflict of high volume manufacturing and how do you change, make a change in the product because it is so hard to scale that into high volume.
Sure.
You have to think locally and globally when you're thinking of your customers. So there are all these conflicts that have to come together to develop a fantastic vehicle. And so I just really was excited about it. And here I am 20-something years later. I won't tell you exactly how many years, but and I've gotten out of the industry a couple of times too. Like when I was at Google, I was in consumer electronics, and it was fun to see that. Yeah. But there's something about automotive, something about just the empowerment that people have through ground transportation that always lures me back in.
Just kept pulling you back in, as they say.
Pulls me back in.
Great line.
Exactly.
Well, let's talk about this, because what you're doing there at Ouster with lidar now. The way it was described to me is this is not your grandfather's lidar, the old spinning sensors on top of the vehicles or expensive, complicated solutions. It's a really compact system. There's no moving mechanical parts. It's cost competitive, scalable, clear 3D images. I mean, this is pretty interesting. So what are you guys up to there?
Mm-hmm. No, it is really exciting. And it has to be solid state from my perspective with automotive, just having been frontline with reliability issues and warranty issues. And especially when it comes to something that's safety critical, it has to be robust. Mm-hmm. And where, duty cycles, they're all different and you can never fully predict how a vehicle is going to behave or what kind of duty cycle it's going to endure. The component itself has to be completely robust. And the interface between the component and the vehicle also needs to be robust. And so it can't be an appendage that's on the side or the top of the vehicle. So the thing that's really exciting about what we're doing is digital lidar really is the future. It has the performance beyond anything that you can see in the market, as well as in the price opportunity. So it's this price performance leadership that we offer beyond any competitor. And the performance is really in terms of the data density, the data coming in. So imagine a point cloud, the lidar illuminates a surface, brings the data in terms of location points back into the sensor, and it paints a thorough picture of an environment. And so the amount of density of that data, those data points, is really critical because that's the only way the vehicle knows where it is in the world. So we offer that data density, but then because it's a basic CMOS semiconductor chip, it has the pricing or the cost structure that can scale, because this type of technology is already used in consumer for things like gaming or facial recognition, et cetera. So yeah, it's taking technology and we have a unique architecture within the technology that differentiates us.
So we're talking about, I believe, like a difference between 10 million points per second versus 2 for a competitor?
That's right. Our competitors are at the one or so range, even at best that, versus we get 10 million points per second.
Wow. So tell us how this will have an impact on vehicle safety, because that's really what we're talking about here with the use of this, right?
That's right. We should have every new vehicle that is produced on the planet with sensors that are going to ensure the safety of the driver, the passenger, and the pedestrians around the vehicle. And so the opportunity that lidar presents is that it cocoons the vehicle, both from a short-range perspective, but then it also gives the vehicle medium and long-range vision for what's in and around it and what's to come. So we're seeing a number of use cases across the board with different various levels of range required. But it does get back to the fact that if vehicles can be cocooned, then they will navigate the world in a much safer environment because they're going to know where they are by ingesting this data from the sensor to understand where they are in the world and what hazards are there that are in their way. So it's the safety of those people in the vehicle as well as those around the vehicle.
Well, tell me about the blue lights and rearview mirror that you and I have experienced. The flashing blue lights.
Yes, I'd like to avoid those in my future.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk more seriously about this being installed in vehicles and what are the ways that the driver is going to be interacting or how they're going to be influenced, I guess, in a way by what this information is telling them while they're on the road.
Yeah, so the more information that can be brought into the vehicle and enable the vehicle to drive itself, the more the vehicle can have confidence to be in control versus the driver. And so right now we're at this L2 level, those SAE levels, the L1 through 5, and L5 is full autonomy, L1 is full driver control. We're in that L2 space, right? But there's a chasm between the L2 and L3, and we need to cross that. And a lot of it's enabled by government, but a lot of it is in terms of the confidence that the technology can provide to the vehicle. So as the driver of a vehicle, perhaps there's more vehicle summoning, in a parking lot or a valet type of environment where the vehicle can go park itself, or parking assist where the parking, if you're doing a parallel parking job, for example, the vehicle can do that themselves. So there are some, easier, short, slower moving vehicle type of use cases versus the highway driving. But there could be autonomous routing where there are times of day or weather conditions or road conditions that permit full autonomy mode. So those are also being investigated as well. And that's the way to really start the adoption of autonomy, because we're not going to be able to flip a switch and all be in driverless cars all over urban settings tomorrow. It's going to be a gradual evolution. And if there's anything I've seen through my experience in automotive is that it does have to be an incremental type of adoption curve because the public needs to get comfortable with it. We need to amass data enough to know that it's a safe condition for autonomous driving or for new types of technology. So I do think it's going to be an incremental thing, and it does take these use cases that will get people more comfortable with autonomy, and then for the industry to have more and more data to confirm that those use cases are indeed safe, and then we can continue to expand into new use cases to eventually become in those L4, L5 level autonomy. But that is going to take a very, it has to be very thoughtfully executed so that we ensure safety of everybody around us.
Right. Well, for diehard enthusiasts like you and I and many of the Cars Yeah listeners right now who are enjoying this show, many of us, and I've been one that said, why would I ever want an autonomous car? That's ridiculous, crazy, silly. I'm never going to do that. I like to be in control. I like to drive. It's enjoyable for me. But then I run across other people who give me a different perspective, which is always good for all of us to have. And one of them hit me square between the eyes, and that is, I have a mom who's aging, and driving is becoming a bit of a challenge for her. It's more stressful, nighttime driving, vision issues, and so forth. And a friend of mine said, well, what if your mom could just summons her car to come pick her up in front of the building, drive her to her doctor's appointment or to the theater or the grocery store, go park itself, come back, take her home, and she would not worry about that, but she would still have that sense of freedom that all of us and many people, when they get older, they don't want to give up their cars because it gives up freedom, even though we have Uber now and all this thing. So that completely changed my perspective. And then what about all the poor drivers out there that we all experience? Now, I think I'm a pretty good driver. I assume you're a pretty good driver, and most of our listeners today assume, or they are pretty good drivers, but there's lots of bad drivers. What if all of them could go in autonomous cars, and just the cars would get out of our way and we could drive and enjoy? So there's a whole nother thing here, but what you're basically saying is this is not slow because it's moving pretty quick, but it is a slower, thoughtful, I like that word, process before this is reality. But if you could get your crystal ball out, when do you think we're going to be seeing this? Now, not with everybody, because not everybody can go out and afford to buy a new car today, next year, or whenever, especially right now with the price of cars. But when do you see this happening? Are we 10 years out from this, 20 years out from this, or it's going to be a lot quicker than that?
I don't think it's that. Yeah, no, I hope it's quicker. And I do think it's going to be quicker. I think in 5 years, we're going to be seeing lidar on just about almost any new vehicle on the road. I think that's when it's going to start, and it's going to quickly become standard. I think that's when the standardization of technology, we've seen this before with ABS, right? Analog brakes were in just the premium vehicles, and now they're in every vehicle. And that'll be the same thing with lidar, and it is going to start in the next few years. But then by the end of the decade, I definitely see the opportunity for autonomy, that it may not be 100% use cases, it may not be in all settings, but rural, those conditions that I mentioned, if there are boxes that are checked that, okay, the weather allows it, the road conditions allow it, the traffic or the density of traffic and the lack thereof permits it, then you can go in autonomous mode. I really see that happening by the end of the decade. And I can't wait.
Yeah, well, of course. Yeah, that's your world. And it's incredible how fast it's coming. And the same with EV cars. I just saw this morning the new release of the new Porsche. It's the Cayman, basically, GT4 RS version. And, I'm a Porsche guy. I'm a BMW guy. I love these sports cars. And they were having an interview. Mark Webber, the past F1 driver, was interviewing one of the engineers at Porsche. And he said, by 2030, 85% of our cars are going to be all electric. That's the way it's going to be. Wow. That's not that far away. It really.
That's right. Those decisions are being made now.
Yeah. Well, they have to be. Yeah. To tune up for it. It's exciting. This is a really cool world that you're living in. I'd love to hear about maybe a driving inspiration or influence in your life. Somebody who was very influential, maybe a mentor, somebody who really helped you move along in your career, because you've had a very fascinating career, very technically oriented career. Is there somebody like that in your life?
Oh, I'm going to just give a big shout out to John Kosnick, who may be already listening. So I hope it's a pleasant surprise.
There you go, John.
At Ford Motor Company. And then, when I was at Honeywell, he was at Ford. He was a chief engineer, and then joined me in a startup, actually in San Diego. And now is retired, member of the National Academy of Engineering, and just to this day, such a great mentor. And so he was always just somebody I admired, and, hard worker. He could do more pull-ups than anybody, by the way. We'd have a bar, and
wow.
then, heaven help me, I could maybe get one in, but he would just keep going. It's just an outstanding individual, and just, a go-getter, can-do, positive, and, takes no hostage kind of approach. Just outstanding individual. So yes, I've been really fortunate to have great mentors throughout my career. Rhonda Germany is another one from Honeywell. She just makes things happen. And I just have admired the people like her and John and so many others that have allowed me to see what could be the future.
Cool.
Sometimes it's you get so immersed in your daily job that it's nice to have that friend, that person who can just be that bit of a watchful eye, but also somebody to give you the hard advice when you need it. So
very cool. So let's take a short break and thank our sponsors. When we come back, I want to talk about a big challenge that you were able to overcome, but more importantly, what it taught you. So again, keep the seatbelts on, the lidar, I guess it's not spinning anymore, working so that we don't run into anything while we're gone. We'll be right back. Did you know that Cars Yeah is in the top 1% of all podcasts based on listenership, according to Libsyn, the premier RSS feed for podcasts in the United States? That's right. And Cars Yeah is the only 5-day-a-week automotive-focused podcast for you to get your message into the ears of thousands of listeners daily from all over the world. Plus, DuPont Registry recommended Cars Yeah is one of their top 10 car podcasts for you to enjoy. Cars Yeah has experienced tremendous growth, plus your ads are evergreen, meaning they never go away. And more listeners find Cars Yeah every day for their daily dose of automotive inspiration. Do you want to expose your brand to a highly targeted list of automotive enthusiasts in a very unique and very personal way? Well, I can help you. Contact me, Mark Green, at mark@carsyeah.com or through the website at carsyeah.com today to learn more. Here at Cars Yeah, it's all about inspiration. And our charity of choice is TechForce Foundation, where it's all about making a positive difference in young people's lives. TechForce helps young adults discover their talents and passions for all things automotive, with a mission of helping students develop a career as a professional technician. TechForce awards nearly $2 million in scholarships every year for students to pursue technical education, and they support hands-on activities, events, and mentorships across the country, working to change the outdated perceptions of these careers. Auto techs are in high demand, but the supply of qualified technicians is critically short. They need your help to fuel their mission. Learn more and join me in supporting them at techforce.org. So, Shauna, let's talk about this. Nobody who is successful has not come up against some challenges. And I would love for you to talk about a big one in your life, a big challenge, big obstacle, maybe even a big failure. But more importantly, what was the lesson learned so you can move forward in a positive way? Take it away.
Yeah, I would say, probably recently, it's people. I think some of the people challenges can be some of the hardest.
Yes.
And I was slow. I was too slow in making decisions. And I've realized that looking back, that once you make the decision, you can breathe easier, and then, but leading up to it can be so challenging. And this, I'm thinking about, a particular individual just didn't have the same values that I was expecting for my company, and I kept pardoning them because there were so many other assets that this person brought. But in the end, it was there was a lot of damage that person did, and I think, in hindsight, if I was to do it over again, I would be very clear. These are the values: transparency, honesty. And if you don't abide by that, you're out, and make it very clear. So, I needed a little bit of the forward production supervisor in me sometimes when it comes to people decisions, in terms of just make the decision and move on. Don't belabor it. If you feel in your gut that the values are not there, or they're not in alignment with what you want as a leader, then it's your prerogative to make a change. And so in the future, I'll be a lot more bold.
Cannot tell you how many times I made that mistake. Of just hanging on too long. And
Correct.
The thing I learned from that so many times was after you made the decision that what person was not the right person to be on the bus, to quote Jim Collins in Good to Great, that so many people came up and said, thank you. What took you so long?
Right.
And you just go, yeah. And it's a tough thing for many, many people, but it's one of those old adages. And I used to do this backwards. I used to hire too fast and fire too slow. And it really needs to work the other way.
That's right. I was about to say that. Yeah, hire slow, fire fast.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you're also doing a service for that person because clearly they're not in the right place.
Exactly.
If they're not behaving or not performing at their top.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you don't realize at the time, you think it's mainly affecting you. It is affecting everybody.
Everybody. Exactly. And that is what I lament the most. Exactly.
Yeah. For you listeners out there that are running small, big businesses, whatever it might be, this is so important. And, it's an old saying that I use to this day, swallow the frog. When you need to do something, you swallow that frog. You just get it over with and move forward. And it's always the best way to do it. Even if it's something you got to get done that day that you don't want to do, don't save it for the end of the day. Swallow that frog. Let's talk about a bit of a bucket list because your career has been magnificent. You're a go-getter. You're super inspirational. Is there something looking forward that you'd really like to accomplish in your life? It doesn't have to be business. Could just be something in your life you want to do.
Well, I want to take a vacation without any email. That would be really nice. So I'm planning on doing that.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. That's hard to do. Yeah.
That's a good question. I honestly, my mindset right now is I want to get this technology on the road. I want lives to be saved through this technology. That is on my bucket list. It's number one. And I feel very strongly about that. And, I think I'm in a really good spot here. I work with an outstanding group of people. We are working on exciting technology. The market is ripe. The solutions that exist today have prevented any sort of scaling. And so we have what it takes. We have the goods. And I'm really excited for what we have. And, when it comes to merging companies, these things are never easy. And it can be, some experiences that I've seen in the past in other settings have been like gnashing of gears. Our Sense Photonics integration into Ouster, I have to say, it's been an amazingly smooth ride. We have, of course, there are little bumps in the road, but nothing that has ever been mission critical. So we've integrated well. It's a fantastic team. We are aligned technically and philosophically about how to approach this market. So, I would say, the bucket list, I'm sure I need to think about that. Hitting a milestone birthday coming up here. So there'll be more bucket list items of, with family related, but no, business related. It really is about seeing a technology that can save lives and see it deployed in mass volume.
I love it.
I'm looking forward to.
I love it. Let's talk about a special vehicle in your life going back, some car that really stood out, or maybe it's a motorcycle. I've even had people say it's airplanes on this show, so it doesn't have to be all about cars. Is there a vehicle that stands out for you, and maybe you could share a quick story about it?
Sure. So my 1956 baby Benz 190 Mercedes-Benz, red leather interior, white exterior. Any of my friends who knew me in my 20s living in Michigan or Minnesota know that was my baby. And fun fact, I literally, when I saw that car, I thought to myself, I really hope in my life I can love a man as much as I love this car.
Well, has that worked out for you?
Say that. And it worked out for me because I did. I'm happily married.
There you go.
But, in my 20s, that was my dream. I loved that car. And, it was carbureted. And so I had to, fix the carburetor and make sure enough air got into the engine to actually turn it on for it to turn over, fix the air filters, did a lot of work on that car and just loved it. And so I had it for a few years. Unfortunately, when it came time to investing in real estate, I needed every precious penny. So I had to part ways with it. And a man in Hungary flew all the way from Hungary to buy it from me because it was such a rare vehicle.
Wow.
So, so my baby is somewhere in Hungary driving around.
Yeah.
And, but it was a beauty.
Red over white. That's quite a combination too. So very cool.
Oh yeah. 4 gears too on the stick. So, old stick. Yeah.
Wow. So, that's a very sweet car. Well, I'm going to crawl into your head and be your automotive psychologist today. So sit back, relax. If you were manifest as a vehicle, what type of vehicle would you be? But more importantly, why?
I'd have to be fast. because I do everything too quickly. I obviously drive too fast. I probably know by now I talk too fast. Yeah. So, what would I be? I'd be
fast.
Something fast. Like, I got to go on the Speedway, the Las Vegas Speedway. When was that? A few years ago, and test drive a Lamborghini Gallardo.
Gallardo. Yeah. Gallardo.
Yeah. I probably mispronounced that one. That one's a beauty. That was a beauty. So if I could be any car, I'd want to be a Lamborghini Gallardo.
Something fast. There's so many great Lamborghinis out there. Yeah, something fast. Yeah, you're a fast moving lady, so that's pretty cool. And Lamborghinis are definitely right down that alleyway. So yeah.
I like the ruggedness of but I do like the ruggedness of SUVs and larger trucks. So
yep.
I don't know how you cross a Lamborghini with a truck, but maybe I'm somewhere in between there.
Lamborghini made an SUV at one time. And
that's right.
Yeah, so maybe that. Now it's a little older, and that was a really unique vehicle, and it was originally designed as a military vehicle. So it was made to go over hill and dale and rocks and dirt and all this kind of thing. But the entire order got kiboshed, so they turned them all into street cars and sold them. They were actually very terrible cars. They were not reliable at all. But I had a friend, up here in Seattle who had one. They were kind of cool looking, and they're highly collectible just because they're so unique and different, and they didn't make that many of them. But maybe we'll call you one of those. Not that you're not reliable. You definitely are that, but you're unique. Yeah, okay. I'll give, we'll do that. And beautiful too. So, and they do have the new Lamborghini Urus. So there's that. But Lamborghinis, pretty special cars for sure.
Yeah,
I imagine there are some ways that you like to give back. Everyone I've had on the show who's successful has figured out some way to help others in the automotive sector. There's some ways you like to do that, or your company does it?
Yeah, well, I certainly like to help individuals, right? I do go out of my way to help people. Just in fact, I'd say today, I just introduced people to each other just right before getting on this podcast, just because I enjoy helping people. And I think it comes down to being at the individual level and helping people with their career next steps. Partway through my career. Being a mentor? Yeah, a mentor, and also just a connector. Partway through my career was after a startup, and it really was as I say, I put the clutch in my career as I changed gears from really powertrain hardware to more the progressive software and technology area. And during those 3 years of that clutch, kind of transitionary years, I was with the firm called Egon Zehnder doing talent consulting and organizational consulting as it related to talent. And so during that time, I met some really interesting people. And my job was to sit and listen to people pretty much all day and then make assessments and recommendations. But I really enjoyed helping people find their next steps of, career opportunities. And I still do that, just as a side hobby, fun, just as, to enjoy that. And certainly women, helping women advance their careers. That is very important to me. And so I do that right and left whenever I possibly can. But in terms of like community and helping community, certainly our local public schools, I've raised a ton of money for the schools because they need it. The California budgets for public schools are very meager. We wouldn't even have a library if we didn't augment the budgets with fundraising. So I'm very active in that regard.
Very cool. I love it. Now, how about reading? Is there a great book that you've read maybe in the last year or two that you'd like to share?
There are a few. One of my favorites is Never Split the Difference. It's actually a negotiations book written by a former head of negotiations with the CIA, and just absolutely outstanding book. And walks through a lot of different examples of hostage situations where he was frontline negotiating with these terrorists. So it's just gave a good examples of what to do, what not to do as you think in everyday life, negotiating everyday life. So I love that book. Talking to Strangers is another one by Malcolm Gladwell. That's an outstanding book because it tells you how we get people so wrong. It's if you take first impressions, if you assume certain things just based on appearance or comportment or what have you, you can get people so wrong. And so that was a fascinating book as well.
Yeah. Gladwell's written some great ones. And Never Split the Difference, that's by Chris Voss.
Chris Voss, thank you.
So, yeah, great book. So I'm going to take you on the ultimate drive. This means I can be magic.
Okay.
You can pick any vehicle, you can pick anybody, living or deceased, and you can go anywhere. So what does the ultimate drive look like for you today?
Oh, gosh. Well, it would be my dad, who passed away just over 10 years ago. Because I think my first, he would just throw me in the passenger seat. I was probably a toddler and no seatbelts. And it was his joy ride. It was a 1959 Mercedes. And we would just tear through the streets of Berkeley, in the Berkeley Hills. He would just be blowing some steam and I would be holding on for dear life. I think that's probably why I love cars. But where would we go? I would go back to, I love history. The older I get, the more I enjoy reading about history and the way the world was, that I had, just opens up new ways of thinking in terms of what's happened in the world and here just the empathy for people. So anyway, I think I'd probably want to go back in time somewhere, either to
back in time. Now, no one's ever said that.
Maybe to
cool.
Europe in the late 30s or to Hong Kong. My dad grew up in Hong Kong, and my grandfather ran a chip building company there, and would love to just see how my grandfather was a pioneer and a business builder and enabled transportation in his day and age in China with ships. That's really how they moved goods. They didn't have highways back then.
Yeah.
And so I think I would just love to be on that learning experience. Yeah.
That is a very cool answer to that question. I like that. Very, very, very nice. Well, you've taken us on a wonderful ride today. This has been so much fun, and I really appreciate you spending some time with me today. Before I let you go, would you share maybe some words of wisdom, some inspirational thoughts, or a quote or a mantra for you or for your business?
Well, Nelson Mandela, I think this is what I started when I first became CEO, and I heard this quote, and it's just stuck with me. I win or I learn. That's what it is. I win or I learn. And I think I don't fail. I win or learn. I do not fail. Something in that regard. And it is really the story of certainly, my life in the last 18 months of being a startup CEO, selling the company, now integrating into another company, and really paving our path forward. And yes, there are areas where we learn. We're learning every day. We don't call them failures because we're learning, and that's part of that's so critical to building a business. Is you build it one block at a time, and you learn as you go. And you want to make sure you learn early. And certainly take time to learn rather than repeat mistakes.
Yeah, it's wonderful. The quote there goes this way: I never lose. I either win or learn. So
nice.
Same difference. Yeah,
yep.
It's and I know that because I've had another guest on the show share that with us. So I always try to remember that when things don't go the way I want them to go.
Right.
Yeah, like those blue lights in the window. Oh, I just learned I shouldn't be going so fast. There you go. Absolutely. How can people learn more about your business, Ouster Automotive?
Yeah, ouster.io. That's our website, and we'll be at CES. I'll be at CES. Would love to meet any of your listeners, and if you're in town, would love to meet you in person. But just visit us at CES or ouster.io.
Absolutely. Again, you can find everything on Shauna's show notes page. Just go to carsyeah.com, type in Shauna McIntyre, and her page will pop right up. And I want to do a shout out. Thank you to Adrienne Lenhoff at Buzzforia PR for introducing me to Shauna. She brought me some great guests. So thank you so much, Adrienne. Shauna, thanks for being so generous today with your time and expertise and for sharing the amazing things that you're doing there at Ouster. This is so cool. The future is so interesting. Until you and I talk again, I'll see you down the road.
Thank you so much, Mark. It was a pleasure meeting you and being on your podcast today.
Pleasure was all mine. This was great. I've discovered Linkage. It's a new quarterly publication and website that covers the automotive market, driving, restoring, collecting, and discovering your passion for motor vehicles. Linkage is about experiences, opinions, and values. Linkage is an actual informed, reasoned opinion based on first-hand experiences. A talented Linkage team covers the automotive world, the people who share your passion and mine, smart, considered, rational, and experienced opinions, ones you can learn from and grow. That includes our passion that drives auctions and the collector car market. So come with me and join us on this journey. And be sure to use the code CARSYEAH when you subscribe, and they'll give you $10 off. Boom! Linkage, geared for the automotive life. Subscribe today at linkagemag.com.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah!